Hello, this is Merlin again. I think this is episode 6. My friend said it'd be cool if I did some requests, and he sent me a bunch of different things that he was interested in hearing my opinion and perspective about. So I answered some of these in a blog post recently on my blog, which is merlin.musing@blogspot.com. I'm pretty sure that's it. Something like that. I think I'm going to try and put a link down below if I can. And so I answered some questions on that, and I'm going to get to some other questions that he has, some of the things he's interested in hearing about in this video. So his next point is, what are the effects of alcohol on the spiritual journey? Hmm. I think when it comes, I don't know, with like drugs and alcohol, I think it's still an individual thing, like regardless of how awake you are. It's just a matter of how it fits in with your physiology and your energy and your psychology. And so I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing, um, or one way or the other. Um, yeah, I don't think that you get to I don't think that it becomes just straight up bad when you start to awaken more. I think you might desire it less at certain points because you have less desire to be intoxicated. Um, yeah, but I also don't have a ton of experience with alcohol. I've never really drank a lot. Yeah, but I think you could become more sensitive to it, or even maybe less sensitive to it. It really just depends on what you're going through, like what your unique disposition is. Um, yeah. So, um, yeah, and I think in terms of it being a bad habit or an addiction, I think that addictions can definitely get in the way of waking up, and some of the intense feelings that we have when we're waking up can cause us to have even more intense addictions and more intense habits, and that could make alcoholism or drug addiction even more intense or more precarious. Um, I think that's really true. And I think waking up can be a time of instability. And so I think it can be really important to be mindful of how you're using substances. And that goes for like any substance, like any kind of food, um, just being mindful of how it affects you, and kind of why it is affecting you the way it is, and how using it, what are the consequences of using it, and how can we use substances, and I'm talking about in the broadest sense, like including foods. How can we use substances, um, or at all, or how can we use, or how do substances, um, what is the interplay between substances um, and our consciousness and our evolving consciousness? I think that's super interesting because I've noticed that um, my diet has changed as I've gone through awakening, and I see it as kind of on a trajectory of changing. Um, and I see food and substances as having psychic like signatures that affect our energy, and depending on the content of our energy, we're going to desire different things because they have different, basically, energetic properties. And a really big component of this energetic property is how we psychologically relate to that substance, and that plays a huge um, like factor or role in how that substance affects us, is our psychological relationship to it. So um, yeah, and so I think that's a really interesting idea and interesting thing to think about, is how do substances like affect our energy, and how can we use substances um, to to kind of awaken and stuff. And I think that's really interesting, and that's something that I think about a lot, and kind of in a different way than a lot of people do. Um, yeah, I guess personally, um, I kind of allow myself to kind of consume what I do, because I see it as a process of transformation and of like kind of in a way purification. I don't, I resist things that I know are like not good for me, but I also allow myself to indulge in things, because it kind of, one of the ways I look at substances and awakening is that uh, our taste evolves, and you could also say our taste lightens as we become more enlightened. And I think this is true. I think I think we move on a trajectory from substances that um, this, I don't know, could sound kind of weird, but substances that are more intoxicating to substances that are less intoxicating, substances that are heavier to substances that are um, lighter. Um, and I see this as a really drawn out process. And so I think our tendency is to try and be like, I need to be like, vegan. I need to not, use any drugs. I need to be totally sober. And I don't think that's often realistic. And I think the process is longer and more complicated. And we can't just have that kind of cut and dry outlook, because I think that's a really narrow way to look at um, the whole composition of who we are that affects what we consume. And I think it's best if we can have like a long term strategy, and if we can have that long term strategy without with a certain degree of control, that which is moderation, so that, and we kind of don't go over the deep end on the other side of the spectrum into just um, reckless self-indulgence. And so I think moderation and mindfulness, and being like realistic, and being aware of how our idealism is ungrounded, and what does it actually mean to ground our ideals in a practical reality of our current situation, our current energetic composition. I think all those things are really important to actually taking steps towards eating foods that are better for us, consuming things that are better for us, putting ourselves in situations that are better for us. And I really think it's complicated, and it's intensive, and it's not something that happens overnight for most of us. But that being said, I think that we can have, kind of spontaneous or like quick or rapid changes. I think that happens too. But I think um, we shouldn't have to depend on that, and we shouldn't depend on that, because those kind of easy fixes are just going to break down um, over a short period of time. And we want strategies that can sustain us and protect us over the long term. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I guess with alcohol, it just, how does that fit in there? What is a good relationship with alcohol for you? Um, Spirituality is a part of it, but it's also just unique to you as an individual. Um, yeah. Okay. So that's the end of that. And the second point he has here is how to handle energy vampires and how to empower yourself. Um, Energy vampires, that can mean a lot of different things. I'm just going to talk about it in a very kind of like technical way or general way, as in anyone who is, um, and this doesn't have to be like evil people, but just someone who is taking more than they're giving. And and so when you interact with them, it's an unbalanced exchange of energy or whatever. Um, um, how do you handle energy vampires? Well, so the way the energy vampire, whatever, how that works is, a lot of ways it's kind of like you have to, there's a lot of different situations that could cause this. Like, it could be coercive, where their forceful personality is they're overwhelming you, and they're forcing you to engage with them in a certain way, and that's one way that it could. That's one way you could relate to an energy vampire. The other way is that they're using like charisma or different kinds of personal appeal, that um, draw you in, and and you relate to them that way, and because I don't know, you're kind of charmed or whatever, or it could be like sexual even, or you're overwhelmed by your like sexual impulses. It overwhelms your like better sense or your better judgment. Um, and so I think when it comes to this, I think the best way to handle this is just to not be around those people in the first place if you can help it. Um, be around people that are healthy and have healthy attitudes, and are able to relate to you in ways that are mutually beneficial to both of you, and it's a positive exchange. Put yourself in situations like that, so you just don't even have to deal with those other people. Um, that's not necessarily easy. There's a lot of different reasons why you could be stuck in a situation, at least for the time being, where you're surrounded by people that are kind of where you feel like you're getting drained. People that are not being, I don't know, not respecting you, or not, or are just whatever, energy vampires. um, so like, what do you do if you're stuck in a situation like that? I think it can be really important to understand how exactly you're feeling drained by the people you're around. Why is that happening? Um, how much of that is under your control? How much of that is you just playing into other people's personalities, um, when you really feel like you shouldn't be? Then you're being disingenuous, um, and that's a part of it. Um, uh, do you need to stand up for yourself and like tell people that the way they're treating you isn't like good and that you need to change that? Do you need to speak up? Um, do you need to like, I go back to it. Do you need to like just get away from this person, Um, or do you need to just kind of internally just not not present yourself, like not be as open around this person or these people, and to be hold yourself more internally, and not be more like, I don't know, protective psychologically, and not be open to what they're doing. Um, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of kind of subtle things that you could talk about how to deal with this, and I don't know, I don't think I have the expertise in a lot of that. But I would say my personal experience, what's worked best for me is putting myself in positive environments and making sure I have enough time to take care of myself so that I can successfully navigate these experiences when they happen. And just like having a plan to move myself into better positions, just constantly, just having a long-term plan, just to put myself in a situation in which I can grow and I can be in a healthy space. Um, yeah, um, I think that's honestly the best solution. It's really hard to learn. I don't know. I think it can be difficult to develop like certain techniques to deal with kind of toxic people when you are feeling compromised psychologically. I think in that situation, you kind of feel like you're in survival mode, and I think it makes it difficult to come up with like kind of intelligent like solutions. I think the best way is just to get out of there. Um, yeah, um, yeah. But I mean, this is I don't know. There's a lot of different scenarios way this could play out and reasons why people are in these situations. Um, yeah, and I guess um, so. It's getting into moving yourself into positive atmospheres with positive people who are capable of having mutually beneficial exchanges, and then also uh, as we grow and mature and become more aware, we become kind of stronger internally. Um, and the more that we are grounded in goodness and in wholesomeness, the more we're protected against negativity of all kinds. The wiser we are, the less we will allow ourselves to slip into ways of interacting with others that aren't healthy and mutually beneficial. Um, uh, and I think so much of this is so much of the experiences we have externally are like are the consequences of things that we are doing, um, consequences of our internal orientation. Um, I think this is true, but I don't think you should be like everything is my like fault or like everything is created because of how I am. I think to a certain extent that's true, but when we have that kind of extreme perspective and we're not like realizing how everything is kind of co-created simultaneously, and we put too much of the need to change on our part when really it's the everything is created by everything. Um, yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else I might want to add. Yeah. Do you really want to be with the people that you're with right now? Who do you really want to be with? Um, what kind of relationships do you really want to have? Do you really like the relationships you have right now? What can you do to change the relationships you're in right now? Uh, what isn't going to change about the relationships you're in if you continue to if you continue them, even if you make changes? What isn't going to change about the people you're with? In the time frame that suits you. Um, what is the best environment you can be in, or what is a better environment you can be in right now? Um, are you being genuine? Are you being authentic? Are you using all of your strengths? Are you ignoring things about yourself that are uncomfortable that you could use to make things easier for yourself right now? a lot of this is just about getting to know yourself, getting to know the world we live in, and finding ways to navigate it that are healthier. Um, and I guess all this plays into the second part. How do you handle energy vampires, and how do you empower yourself? All this is about like how do you empower yourself? Yeah, it's just like empowering yourself is all about um, kind of getting to know yourself and then taking steps that strengthen who you are, um, and taking steps that allow you to be yourself in this world. Um, yeah, and that's a huge topic. How do you empower yourself? I mean, that's huge. Um, I could really go into that a lot. Um, I think one point I will touch on with this topic is you can't really empower yourself if you are not facing who you are and how you really feel. Um, if you're being inauthentic and you're leading an inauthentic life and you have inauthentic relationships with people, with your job, with yourself, then it won't feel like you're growing as an individual because you'll be ignoring who you really are and how you really feel. So I think it's really important if you really want to empower yourself to get to know who you are, and have the strength to be who you are. And that doesn't mean you have to just I'm going to be who I am now and this is it. And now I'm not being me. It's like you could look at it in a much longer process. What is it going to take for me to face who I am? What is it going to take for me to start discovering who I am? What's it going to take for me to um, take steps to 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 take steps that will make it easier for me to be myself, that will help me be and become myself in this life, in this world, in these circumstances. Um, and I think once you can find a really good place where you feel really comfortable with who you are and you find kind of authentic power, I think once you have that, you can start engaging in the world in positive ways, in ways that reflect who you are, in ways that reinforce who you are and expand who you are in your own evolution. And I think it's really easy when we start to have spiritual feelings to get really excited about a lot of different things, but I think we can be really disconnected from our core. We can go in a lot of different directions that aren't really in line with who we are as an individual. And I think we could take a lot more time to figure out who we are, um, to really find that out, really be grounded in that. And then once we have that, it's just a matter of uh, acquiring knowledge and resources and skills and applying ourselves in this world to fully become the person that we want to be, that we feel we were born to be. Um, but you can't do that if you're not in touch with yourself, if you're not listening to yourself, and if you haven't taken the time to find your own strength and your own will. And I took a really long time to do that, and it's really starting to pay off. And there's so much, there's so many things that can get in the way of people figuring out who they really are. There's so many different ideas. Um, and delusions, things people get caught up on. They're really distracting. There's so many. There's like literally so many. Um, but we really can get grounded in who we are. We really can. We can really take the time, and I think it can take a lot of time and a lot of effort. It depends on who you are. Some people just already are there, um, and that's great. Some people aren't. I felt personally like when I grew up, I entered this darkness, like from like 12 to like 19, where I was like not myself. Uh, and I had to rediscover who I was, individually as a person, not as like ultimately spiritually, but as an individual. And I had to take a lot of time to do that, and I feel like a lot of people don't. Um, and I'm really glad that I had the drive to do that, because I think a lot of people just kind of go with life and they just keep on going. They can get really distant from who they are and from their heart and their soul, and they spend all this time doing stuff that doesn't really make them happy or that isn't really what they want to do. And man, you only have this moment to take time to figure that out. And you know, so it's like you have to do it right now. um, this is it. This is the only time you have. um, it's like we can have this life of security and survival and pleasure and comfort relative. um, how much does that compare to a soulful life, a life where we've taken the time to get to know who we are as an individual, like in a deepest sense. um, and I think once you can clearly see the value of both, you just won't have any desire. Like, you will have some desire, but you'll be pretty committed to like figuring your shit out. um, yeah. So, and I really think the only like real security, the only real peace, um, the only real guarantee we can have is by awakening to who we are individually and following our own bliss, following our own hearts. Um, when we don't listen to our conscience and we don't listen to our feelings, it just wreaks havoc on our karma, in this life, in our relationships and everything. And the best security we can have is when we're in harmony with ourself, the core of who we are. Um, and I think our true self, our true nature, um, when we're in line with our deepest, most fundamental dreams, those dreams are in line with the universe. They're in harmony with the universe. They're in harmony with everything. They're not doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. I think it just means that if we can listen to those feelings, we can have, I don't know, the most security that we could ever have, is doing that. Otherwise, we're kind of walking in darkness, which is a darkness it's like a subtle darkness compared to like the darkness that we're afraid of, which is the darkness that we might find ourselves in if we don't conform. Um, yeah, if we don't focus just on making money, just on being popular, just on being a certain way, just on pleasing these people, the darkness that we might find ourselves in if we don't do those things. But the darkness that we have when we ignore our soul and we ignore ourselves is greater than that. And I think the insecurity that we create when we ignore our soul is greater than the insecurity that we might have if we decide to abandon, what is maybe worldly for, what is true to who we are as an individual, as a spiritual being, however you want to say it. So yeah, that's that. So how do you empower yourself? You have to face yourself. You have to be willing to face yourself. Um, Face how you feel, regardless of how you feel. Just embrace it and feel it, and allow yourself to be the way you are, and allow yourself to listen to who you are, and have the desire to listen, the desire to be who you are, the desire to deepen and get to know yourself um, fully, and the commitment to do that day in and day out. That's kind of what it takes. Let's see how much. Oh, I don't know how long this has been. All right. Okay, I think I'll do maybe one more. How to love and be happy for people even when you don't feel good. Um, hmm. Well, I think if you feel bad enough, you're not going to be able to love and be happy for other people. uh, but you can feel bad and also love people and also be happy for others at the same time. Um, yeah, it's a spectrum. Um, um, I think for me, as I've kind of awakened and grown as an individual, my my capacity for feeling has really grown a lot, and I can feel really good even when I feel really bad, and I can have a lot of love even when I'm feeling really hurt. Um, and I think what I'm trying to express is I think there's this underlying kind of love and goodness that kind of grows when you awaken. This underlying kind of life and unity and feeling, this expansiveness, and it kind of is just welling up, and it becomes this huge body, and our personal feelings kind of can become more insignificant um, as we become more rooted and more open to this, and it becomes an abiding uh, presence and an abiding body. Um, this just life, this just greater life, this greater being, which is just this. It's like love and joy a lot of the time. That's what a lot of it is love and joy, and in light and openness. And so I think just our commitment to awakening can allow us to be loving and be happy for others, even when we can be personally hurt. And I think something that I've recognized is that my my intent of awakening is to create this kind of space which is not affected by what happens in the world. Um, I'm trying to create an attitude and a presence that is kind of just that can weather anything because things don't affect it because um, I think things affect us because of our ignorance, and because of our psychology and our attitudes. I think that something that I've always felt that is the most real is that there's this what is real, what's really real right now is something that is totally unaffected by, it's just beyond troubles. It's beyond problems. And I have this feeling like all of these problems are illusory and that's not really who I am. And so I've been trying to create that and define that. And that's what I kind of think is the heart of my awakening is this feeling like what I'm experiencing now, isn't what I want to be experiencing. And it's not even really real. And there's something more real. And even though I'm hurting a lot right now, I feel like tuning into this other feeling, this other sense. This just seems way more real. And like everything that I'm experiencing right now, um, it just doesn't feel real to me. And I might be hurting a lot. I might have a lot of problems, but I don't feel like I don't feel like giving into them. I don't feel like staying here. I feel like just keep on reaching, for that subtle place that just kind of feels like this calmness that is kind of always out of reach, but my deepest, truest senses tell me it's actually what's real. And so what I've experienced and what has really deepened profoundly as I've awakened more is that that is the case. And I feel like my personality has kind of shifted from being in the limited narrow space, sensing this greater truth, to being in the greater truth with this kind of persisting personality, which has, regular problems and stuff. But I feel like I'm more the expansiveness now than I am the individual, which is really interesting. Um, I think I don't know if it's pretty true for me. And it's just been really interesting to watch that process unfold. And I think that's kind of true for everyone who's awakening and just everyone in general. Um, yeah, I just want to say again, there's just that feeling like I'm smarter than this. I'm wiser than this. There's something other than this. I want to reach for that. I don't want to stay here in this place where I can't see the perfect truth, where, I'm in darkness. I don't believe in this darkness. I don't believe in these problems. I don't believe in any of these limitations. What I am is something much greater than this. I am inspired just beyond reason to search for this against all odds. Um, that's the spiritual journey, and that's the kind of mentality it takes to awaken, to do that, and to do that every day, and to move ourselves more into that mindset, to become more and more committed to that. And we become more committed when when our realization deepens, and we realize that what is the truth is this abiding being, which is transcendental of all limited forms, and that the reality of these limited forms, in which these forms are at war with each other, I don't think is real. So, yeah, that's that. Um, he's got some more, but I'll leave it at that because that's been like 30 or 40 minutes. So, hope you guys are doing well, and um, yeah, take it easy. Peace.